I think it's time to start the next session now, and I apologize for a late beginning. As they say in the airports, it's due to late arrival of the aircraft, but I think this is a late outgoing of the previous session, so it's a great pleasure for me to welcome you to this session, which is one of 4 parallel sessions that deals with the key enabler conditions for the bioeconomy. And in this session, we'll discuss the human capital aspect, how to get the right people with the right skills for the right jobs. And right now we have 2 of the 3 speakers present, so I think we'll improve on that as well. Looking to my left and looking to my presumed right, I also need to make an apology for the very bad gender balance in this session, but it was sort of outweighed by the previous one. What really fascinates me about the bioeconomy concept and its huge innovation potentials is that it's a fantastic example of convergence of science, engineering, technology, and business development across many disciplines and sectors. The convergence of old and new fields, such as agriculture, industrial microbiology, and the rapidly developing toolbox in synthetic biology is leading to multiple interactions and business opportunities, and they are all addressing how we can better exploit biomass, develop more biomass with higher value, and not the least, secure and protect biomass in a globally sustainable way. There is an obvious need for better understanding of needs and skills to drive research, education, and innovation in the interfaces between biomass and its added value exploitation in a wide array of fields. Most of them have already been mentioned several times today. It's about food, it's about biomaterials and feedstock, it's about health, it's bioenergy, climate mitigation, and clean tech and environment, of course. If we look more closely at the education dimension and the development of ample human capital with the right skills and competencies, it's really evident that we are challenged by a very high degree of complexity with a need for both a holistic approach and systemic thinking. For example, the cascading principle for optimal use of biomass. Don't start with burning it. It's also about cross and multidisciplinary way of doing planning and implementation of education at many levels. And finally, it's also very much about public-private collaboration and co-investment. And this, of course, makes the bioeconomy concepts and potential one of the most conspicuous examples of the need not only to integrate the whole knowledge triangle across research, education, and business and entrepreneurship, but certainly also to integrate the knowledge triangle with the triple helix model for public-private innovation, universities, industry, and authorities, and to work within the concept of an innovation pyramid, including authorities and regulations, which was also addressed in the previous session. Because any good idea, venture, and promising innovation can be strongly impeded and even killed by adverse framework conditions. And probably I do not even need to mention this when discussing bioeconomy. A few years ago, I joined the governing board of the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, the EIT, of which I just have taken over the chairmanship. And the trademark of EIT and our knowledge and innovation communities, the KICs, is the full integration of education with research, business, and entrepreneurship across the knowledge triangle, and with a special emphasis on developing new education programs along the thematic areas and priorities that each KIC works on within their overall business plan. Based upon strict quality requirements, we award an EIT label, a quality label, to the most promising and innovative master and PhD programs run in the KIC co-location centers, and with integrated partnership, also participation also from industry and entrepreneurs. The EIT KIC model aims at creating a new European culture of entrepreneurship to deliver the relevant and innovative human capital for the future, for both the private and the public sectors. A human capital with an entrepreneurial mindset. Clearly, this is just one model that could be applied also to the bioeconomy challenges and to the human capital that we need here. In this session, we will now go more in details with three important dimensions of the human capital needed to make bioeconomy an even greater success. It's about skills development, it's the role of trade unions, and its education practices and models. For each of these dimensions, we will have a 12 to 15, max 15 minutes presentation, followed by a discussion between speakers and the audience. I think also we should aim at having a possibility for a few, let's say, specific questions after each presentation, but we'll take the more generic things afterwards. So with these words, the first speaker is Professor Ulrich Schur from Research Center Jülich in Germany, one of the excellent institutions of the Helmholtz-Gemeinschaft. Professor Schur has an outstanding academic career within research and education, starting with a PhD in the area of plant environment interactions, and leading to his present position as director of the Institute of Plant Science at Jülich, and also being a professor and teacher at the University of Heidelberg. Düsseldorf. Professor Schur is very active as vice president of EPSO, the European Plant Science Organization, and also a board member or a coordinator for many science policy and strategic initiatives in Germany, promoting plant biomass, biofuels, and sustainable bioeconomy. And Professor Schur will address skills development in the bioeconomy. Please, Uli.
Can do this also from here because I don't have any slides because the organizers asked us to do presentations without slides, which is a good thing. Okay, and thanks very much, obviously, first for the organizers to invite me here and to give us the opportunity to report a little bit. The basis of that is besides on what we've just heard about my background. That there have been a number of activities in the last years which are really concentrating on education on bioeconomy. I would base my presentation on the one hand experience which we have ourselves in the Bioeconomy Science Center, which I'm heading, which is a regional collaboration between 3 universities in the region, plus us as a national lab in Germany. And here we are bridging from agricultural, plant and environmental sciences, chemical engineering, industrial biotechnology, economy and social economics as a whole. So this is a real kind of integrating approach in research and as well in education. And because we are talking about education and skill development here specifically, I would like to include this into the kind of challenges which we are facing there. The second element is our activities in EPSO and in the European Technology Platform Plants for the Future, where we also took activities some years ago already on the question of education in the field. And we did some, especially demand analysis, what is needed by industry and what can the education sector actually deliver for that. And the third element is the ICA, the Life Science Universities Associations activity, which started just roughly 2 years ago, where ICA, which is an organization of 60 life science universities across Europe, formed a work group on bioeconomy, where we are also working now on the question of how the educational sector would actually deliver into the demands and the needs for the bioeconomy. So let me start by putting up some of the central aspects there. I think the central point is that there will not be a bioeconomy implementation without having the proper skills and the proper skilled combinations. Because in the same way as we're trying to combine different disciplines and different sectors here, we also have to combine different skills. And the skills, in many cases of what we call the bioeconomy, are not something completely new. That's also a thing which we have to realize. It's something which is rather kind of integration, a kind of building on traditional skills which we have in different disciplinary areas. And in many cases, if we talk also to industry, they will not have a advert asking for a bioeconomist, because this is a job profile which probably does not exist. But they would probably ask for a plant scientist with a background in bioeconomy, or an economist with a background in bioeconomy. So this is always based on the job adverts which we see at the moment. They are very strongly based on disciplinary skills and then additional information, additional expertise in bioeconomy. But on the other hand, we already know that so the basis of that is that there is an interaction of very highly skilled, qualified people, and therefore an interaction, and the interaction, team spirits and team skills are very important. It's needed to have more activities with respect to understanding the chain and the network concept in it as a whole. So if we talk to a farmer today or to a person in engineering today, they often are not familiar with the whole full chain and full network activity, the closed loop economy which we are talking about. Many of these concepts are new, and they should also be involved in the education as a kind of target. And therefore, generating the opportunities, but also generating new ideas of linking streams and value chains, as we discussed most of this morning already. The education and training should take place at all different levels, and I specifically and deliberately include the public, include schools, include pupils, because we should not start with education about bioeconomy concepts only if we go into universities, because we, also, as already was said also this morning, we have to integrate bioeconomy into society, and we have to work with society on that topics. And very importantly, then if we go to implementation, we need to also have more entrepreneurship and take more, and the willingness to take more risks. This is also an education part, but it's definitely also a part where our society at large should take more risks and on the basis of a good understanding of opportunities. So let me go into a little bit more of the analysis of the demand which is there for education part, and this is based on a mapping exercise which we did from the Technology platform Plan for the Future together with EPSO, asking in many different sectors in bioeconomy some years ago. And essentially, what they asked for is that from this mapping is that there are already what we saw from there is that there already are shortages in the development of bioeconomy, because we are lacking skills. We're lacking specific skills in certain disciplines. For example, breeders are very much asking for more breeding education, because this is clearly lacking behind the demand based on probably traditional thinking in the past, and that all agriculture would be dull and we should and very traditional. So we need to have also strength of education in certain disciplines already. The companies specifically were asking for a very strong disciplinary basis, expanding soft skill basis, and very strongly said that team skills, linkages, and networking skills would be very important. But also the education network in itself was taken as a very high demand, so that there is really an integrated education based on the graduate education, where the coordination between specific bioeconomy education based on disciplinary skills must build on, so that the new integration bioeconomy education must build on existing disciplinary approaches, and that they should also be linked to regional education aspects, regional education clusters, because they are providing the opportunity to directly link academic education with education in industry and experience in industry. A further aspect which was strengthened in that analysis was that it would also be necessary not only to look at young researchers, but also at the development of senior researchers in academia and industry, because in a kind of lifelong learning and lifelong development of expertise, specifically at an education for bioeconomy professionals from industry, but also from academia. And people were asking for for an approach which is actually taking demonstration projects, taking them also as a kind of crystallization point for education activities in translational research, and trying to use them as a good example how things are moving forward. So education should take place also from that study at all levels. Building skills starts already at schools. Strongly, the companies asked for overcoming the ill knowledge about biological systems today, which is actually penetrating our schools and public education systems very strongly today. We also should look at the teaching of the teachers, because they are the multiplication community, which is actually delivering into the pupils and in the end into the society the knowledge about bioeconomy, and putting the new concepts also at that level. Companies were also very strongly asking not only for academic training but also for technical training, in that context where we are talking about engineers, we are talking about farmers. Also educating in that level plays a very specific role with a specific add-on skills for bioeconomy and thinking of bioeconomy. And as I said already, lifelong learning and training was very strongly put up. So following this kind of demand approach, where we try to ask the community or the industry what they actually would ask for education skills, we are now starting in a joint activity between the Bioeconomy Science Center, EPSO, the ETP and ICA, to build on to try to map what is out there already. So what do we have today in the bioeconomy education programs, or programs which are linked to bioeconomy? And how would people see in the education sector the developments in the future? The target would be to address universities and research institutions from the widest possible range of disciplines which are linking to bioeconomy. And the aim would be to collect and process available data and information about educational programs and how activities are related to bioeconomy are actually approached. These findings will then provide a detailed overview about education offers, which are there in the field, and the basis for a kind of gap analysis, which you will then make relative to the data, to the demand side. And the elements which we are asking for is elements about educational programs, about training, which kind of programs exist, how many students are in there, what kind of structures and educational instruments are used, which kinds of disciplines, which kinds of combinations are used. What kind of skills are in there? Is there integration with industry? Is there a demand from industry? Is actually this kind of program induced by industry? And how is the hiring situation also? Because in the end, we are working with people, we are working with young people, and they need to have a future in a job position. We will also ask the community about future needs. We are specifically also addressing the question of international collaboration, how much networks are used and required. And in the end, obviously, bioeconomy is not a European or a local member state thing, it's an international thing. So we're also very strongly asking for the question about international bioeconomy education in other countries, in other continents, and talking about a global workforce which is more and more having mobility in the future as well. And how the diversity, which is also a characteristic of the bioeconomy, actually spills over into the educational frameworks, like we heard this morning. So in summary, I would first like to ask those people who are interested in also participating in this survey, in this mapping of the educational programs, that they approach me later on. I can give you an email address where you can drop your email address, and then we can include you in the mapping exercise. And one would like to finalize by stating that bioeconomy implementation certainly requires education very strongly. To provide an education society on the one hand, it's not only about the workforce, it's about the society at large. To valorize the knowledge which is there in the different disciplinary excellence targets. To integrate the knowledge from the networks to joint targets, which is in the end for us the implementation of a sustainable bioeconomy. and finally to attract and generate entrepreneurship to make the bioeconomy not only academic exercise but reality. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. I think we have time for one, let's say, clarifying specific question, if there should be one. Does not seem to be the case. Then we will go on with the next presentation, which is given by Mr. Jesper Lund Larsen, who is political advisor at the United Federation of Danish Workers, the so-called 3F. Jesper Lund Larsen has a professional education in landscape gardening with a diploma in management. He worked in that field for 9 years, and naturally he developed a strong political interest in the areas of organic agriculture, health and environment. This has led to his career within the trade union organization in Denmark, with a strong engagement and responsibilities in the area of green growth and a sustainable bioeconomy. And Jesper will address the role of the trade union with a presentation on bioeconomy, green jobs and education. Please, Jesper.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Yes. First of all, I want to thanks for giving me the possibility to talk about the trade union's role in the green economy, because we find it very, very interesting, and I'm sure because we have heard it already earlier today that there's a lot of jobs in this sector, millions of jobs if we are looking very good, and if we are focus on where we can create jobs. So I think we have a possibility for the future to do a lot of things, and therefore also, of course, we have to focus on education. So that is what I will talk about. And as you can see also, I try to go both from the grass and to the end of what's coming out of the cow as small biomass blocks. Where we see the jobs is both in the blue biomass, the green, the yellow, the brown, and whatever we can see, waste and so on. And we can also see that we need both professional training for the workers. We need people from the university who know something about science and research and so on. And we also need that our workers get what we call labor market training. That means that they are also, when they are on the labor market, are in jobs, they also get training continue, so they also are ready for the future. The blue biomass, that is fish discard and fish waste, and that means that the fisherman must learn something about how to take care of those things when he's fishing and when he come back to the harbor, so he knows how he could use the fish discard and the fish waste on the best way. So therefore we need more training of the fisherman. Then we have the mackerel and the seaweed, and there it's people how to grow those things, how to house those things. That is something we need also to do. Maybe there is already a lot who knows about all those things, but also if you get a new person, you must train this person to do it on the best way, so we get the best possibility out of those things. So we can see that there is a lot of possibility both for creating jobs, especially in the coastal regions, but also that we, if you look, first of all, because I come from Denmark, I always look on my own country, but if I then look at Europe, then we have a lot of possibility to export technology, and I think that is very important also, because we there can create a lot of jobs. On the green biomass, then we have the feed and food ingredient sector. We have the refining sector, where we are producing different kind of different things that we are using in the industry. And then again, we have the possibility to make a technology export. And I think that also there, it's important. Of course, we can see if you just need to harvest a field, it's not so different from how you harvest today. But we saw also that we are someone are now looking at new plants that we can use in this green biomass. And I think it's important that we know how to grow this, how to if you had to take care of it, also the coffee we heard about today, that could maybe be a new interest for a lot of people to grow more coffee or tea. So I think there we need something. And then again, we need it in the industry. We need to train the people in the industry. Of course, a lot of the things they had to do is look like the same they're doing today, but still it's important that they know exactly what they're doing if they are working in that kind of industry, so we still get the best possibilities. And there is the role for the trade union and for the employers' organization that we together find out what is necessary for the workers to have as an education, because then he or she will be have the knowledge that is important for the industry. So therefore, and I don't know what's going on in the rest of Europe, how they are doing, but in Denmark we have some groups that are both represented from or from the employers organization and from the trade union, and there they discuss what is necessary and find out how they can get the best trained people out of this. And also they are looking at how is the teaching, what do they need of education, so they are the best teachers that we can get. Again, with the yellow biomass, we have the same. We have the job creation from the field to the industry and to the end user. And we have also the farm workers that need education. We have the industrial workers, and we have the researchers. And I think also it would be a good idea if the researcher sometimes came out in the real world and working on a farm, working in a factory, and knows what's going on there, because then they can better understand how they can produce and use these things that are produced in the industry, and how they also can find out maybe that, if we train the workers like this one here, then they can get a better product at the end. So I think therefore the researcher needs sometimes to come out in the real world. And I know it because when I was a landscape gardener, the architect there also find it so interesting to make everything round. And if you take something, most of the things that you are walking on is like a right angle and so on. So it's very, very difficult. And it's taken me a long time to discuss with them about that. So therefore, I think if they sometimes came out in the real world, then they could see that we could do things a little bit easier if we work together. So we could also train the researcher there. The brown biomass, that is from the forest, and an example is that we have made research that say that in Denmark, if we are using the brown biomass a little bit better than we are doing today, then we can create about 1,000 jobs. And 1,000 jobs in a country like Denmark is really much. We have about 2 million workers at all, or something like that, maybe less. So 1,000 jobs there is still a lot. And again, the forestry workers need to take care of the nature and need to know how to take care of it. And we must train them so they know exactly what to do, and so also the product that come out at the other end that are usable. So, and again, the industrial workers could also need some training. Then, if we look at another kind of biomass, I think here about residues from meat processing, and I've been together with a person who always tells that there's a lot of possibilities in this sector here. So I'm sure that we have the possibility to do. I don't know much about it, but if people are saying that there is such thing, then we need to train and educate people in this sector here. So again, they are using the meat as best as possible, and at the other end, then we can use it as a kind of biomass that could be more than we are doing today. So we need really to focus on this one, and I think it's important that, again, that the employers and the workers are working together to how we can use it in the best way. Then we have the waste. And in my union many years ago, I think it's about 20 years ago, we make an education program from the renovation workers or the waste man. that he should, when he went out to the household and talked with the person that had a lot of waste there, try to train them so they can separate the different things that they are throwing out. Because if they train my family or my neighbor's family in how to recycling those things, then we have the possibility really to use the biomass that come out as a good thing, and instead of just burning it as we are doing a lot in Denmark. Of course, we will at the end have to burn something, and I think also it's important there, but we can recycling the waste much better, and therefore we can separate it into different kind of metal and biomass and whatever. And we have also the possibility to use other kind of enzymes, for example, to make biomass out of the waste. So yeah, I think also before Peter telling me that I have used my time. So thank you very much.
Thanks also to you, Jesper. Is there any short questions to clarify points from this presentation? Not the case. Very good. Then we will continue with the third presentation of today, given by Professor Francesco Profumo from the Polytechnic of Turin and the IRENE Group. Professor Profumo graduated in electrical engineering from Politecnico di Torino and worked in R&D at the Ansaldo company for 6 years. He then moved to an academic career at his university, which led to his service as rector of the Politecnico 6 years, 2005 to 11, and also to distinguished positions as president of Italy's National Research Council and president also of CESAR, the Association of European Schools for Advanced Engineering, Education and Research. Professor Profumo was also appointed Minister of Education in University and Research in the Monti government 2011 to 13, and he's now president of the IRENE Group of companies, which is a major industrial player in the multi-utilities sector. So obviously, this is a very, very excellent background for Professor Profumo to address the need to support green jobs, training and relevant skills with the presentation of a new education model for the bioeconomy. Please, Professor Profumo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the invitation to this important event. I want to start from a consideration. This morning, during the bio-based chemicals and energy section, we had 3 presentations for what we call Italian biorefineries. And the 3 presentations were from 3 people from this area, from the Piedmont area. And in the meantime, if you look at the partnership agreement of the region Piedmont, you can find that one of the priority, or maybe the priority, is the bioeconomy. This means that in this part of Italy, we are facing, maybe more than in other part, the needs to have educated people in this field. And in the last few years, we had a good number of jobs that they started in this fields. The 3 companies that presented this morning the papers, the Versalis company, the Novamont, and the Mosse Ghisolfi or Chemtex company, they recruit tens of PhDs. But they are facing day by day a lack of education in this field. Then when I was discussing with Peter, we are discussing how we can try to solve this problem. You know, this part of Italy is really an industrial part. The industry is really part of our background. The basic background is mechanical engineering, computer science and engineering, ICTs. But we are facing in this time the necessity really to address a part of our industry in a completely different direction. And the bio direction is maybe the future. Then when I started to think about this, what I did, I talked with people coming from companies, and I asked what you feel that could be necessary for the future, starting from your point of view, not looking for today, but looking for the future in terms of education. What are the needs that you have from your point of view? And one general answer was that one of the topics that we are facing today is how to utilize renewables in general to produce new product with a reduced impact on environment. This is one basic answer that I had. Then I asked something more and said, what do you mean from this side? Oh, they say, look, one of the possibilities is not the only one. In the previous presentation, we had several of this, is to convert biomass to various types of products. This morning, I shared that you heard from Novamont some of the biomaterials, and you learn about from Chemtex for the biofuel. And these are just some of the possible products. We know today all the products that we can get from these processes? No, not yet. We are facing some of this, but year by year we are funding something more and something more that has an impact in our society. But there is something that on the basis is something really new. And the really new is that we can have some kind of microorganism, microbes or something similar, that are able to convert what? Sugars or some sugar-derived compounds to multiple products. And this is the basic that we have. Then a microorganism, this means something alive, sugar, and to convert in materials, in chemicals, in some kind of chemicals. Easy to say, very difficult to really produce, to have the ability really to study this point. And why is so difficult? Because if we look at our schools, we still have what I call the Napoleon model, in the sense that they are really vertical. We have chemistry, we have biology, we have chemical engineering, we have biotechnology. And this is a part of the world of the previous millennium. Today, we have a more and more cross-fertilization that is among these different piles, yes. But the school is able to give this kind of answers? No. It's very difficult. If you look at our careers, is tightly related to very narrow field. We are very good professor. We can get good results if we write papers in a very selected field. We are not able yet really to have what we can call a multidisciplinary approach. And this is the point. Then we understand that we have this kind of process starting from biomass. Then we want to get something that at the end are bioproducts, biochemical something. Then let me try to understand with you what are the needs of education. What we need, which kind of profile we need to have. First of all, I feel that we need what we call design engineers from different processes that we call biochemical, chemical, or maybe also hybrid processes. This is one good point. For sure, we need this stuff. We need this kind of people with this type of expertise. Second, we need someone that is able to study what we can get from microbe to final product. This is one of the key points. Then what we call modern genomic and molecular biological methods in metabolic engineering and synthetic biology. Very difficult words, but in some way we needed to put some content on that. And then we needed to have some capability in computation and modeling, in process integration and scaling up, analytic chemistry. You know, if we look at all these different fields, we understand that we need to have a mixture. A mixture of what? Of biology, biotechnology, chemical engineering, chemistry, and some other sciences. And this is very difficult. We don't have yet. We don't have degrees that are formalized in this approach, with this kind of approach. This means that we needed to have more and more what we call a multidisciplinary approach in order really to get people that are able to move from one field to the other one. In the meantime, they have to be very deep in knowledge because this is our tough, really tough field. Then if we go to the school, it's difficult. In our departments, it's difficult really to handle this kind of approach. And what really we can do? We have some other fields. For example, in automobile engineering, they facing some kind of similar problem. That this means that they had to move from the traditional mechanical engineering, mechatronics engineering, computer science engineering, in something that is more mixed. And they started to think about what they call a new academy for something. Then what I want to propose to you is a new academy for a bioeconomy. Again, easy to say, difficult to realize, because from where we can start. I have quite some experience on this field, and I think that the best is always to start from a PhD, from the top. Why? Because it's easier, it's less formalized. You really can have people that also with different background, they can start to study together, to do research together, and then you have a very nice output. Because some of these people, they will be able to follow a professional career in university, in research centers. This means that they're able to really get back some of their background that they could get from this kind of education. Then starting from that. But we need really an academic PhD or something similar. I think this is a case where maybe we can talk about industrial PhD. What means an industrial PhD? It means that these people, they have to live, they have to study in one environment where they can touch academia and they can touch industry. This means that there is a contamination between academia and industry. And where they have to stay. If they stay in the office is not the best way. Maybe they needed to have some kind of academia hub or something like this, where there are different people coming from academia, people coming from industries, possibly from different industry, in the sense that they have the possibility really to be pushed day by day in the frontier of research. And maybe if this place has a good reputation, they can get people coming from all around the world, and they can discuss, they can really have this. Okay, then it's something like that we can call it really a modern PhD, industrial PhD stuff. And this is the first step for this academy. The second step is, if we go a little bit down, is maybe to have a kind of a master degree. But we can call one integrate master degree. Usually when you enter in a master degree, there is some kind of continuation related to your bachelor degree, in the sense that if you started with a chemical engineering, maybe you can go also to material science engineering, but you cannot go to electronics or to something like this. In this case, because we want to have a really multidisciplinary, we needed to start from a wider approach, in the sense that the input to this master could be from different bachelor degrees in this sense. Then this kind of master is able to really educate people that they can, at the end, they can go to industry, but maybe they can go also for a PhD, and an industrial PhD. It's maybe a good solution for that. Then going through this kind of idea to have a kind of place where you can be educated. On this line, people sometimes they don't have too much time. And then we can talk like, we can say, we can call short master. In Italy, we have something like this. It's 250 hours a year, not more than that. Sometimes is 60% of this time in the classroom, and another 40% in a company. Most of these people, they work already, or they have some experience, and it's very addressed, very dedicated. For maybe some title like it, could be fermentation technology, do you understand? It's very dedicated for that. The design of system for green chemistry, or agronomic chain, or green chemistry, do you understand? Something like this. And this is the third step for that. But then we have something more that what we can call practice school. Practice school, what means? There is quite a long experience on that at MIT in US, where the students, in this case are master students usually, they spend between 3 to 6 months in a company. They can get a small salary from that. The company also pays something to the schools, and it's very nice integration. Then, starting from that, this kind of academy, we have a 4-level PhD, master, short master, practice school. But this is also a very nice environment, and I was talking with Peter the other day, where you can create ideas. Not all these people, they look for one academic career, but some of them, they are more interested in startup. What means a startup? It means that you have some ideas, you have maybe in your drawer, and then you start to think to create a company, and maybe there is someone that is interested in your idea, is putting some money, and okay. If you go to Torino, there is a very nice, we call incubator, where they create 3 new companies every 2 months. In the last 10 years, or something less than 10 years, they created almost 200 new companies. And the idea was like this, starting from students, starting from graduate, people that they lived before together, they had some input, they lived in a contaminated environment, this means university and companies, and at the end, they became maybe not an academic researcher, but they became some kind of industrial researcher. And this is the case. Okay, this is the end of the story. In principle, and this is what happened, for example, in the automobile sector. This academy, after a while, became larger, and they thought that in the automobile sector, they need also technicians. And then they thought that it was necessary to have also some kind of a courses or some kind of a short degree for people that are mainly technicians and not researchers. But I have the feeling that in this new field of the bioeconomy, the education is really the step up in order to create a new economy, a new development for this part of the world that where we need really to create a new industry. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Francesco. I think you addressed quite a number of the issues that are around the whole, let's say, education sector for bioeconomy. I think we should take a general discussion now with, on the basis of all the three presentations. Could you present yourself by name?
Michael Narodoslavski from the European University Association. Well, a few comments first to Professor Schnur. Thank you very much for really, I would say, summarizing the discussion about all the skills. We're talking about that for 20 years. And progress is little. So, I think that we really have to think a little bit harder about how we really can change the educational systems. And I'm very happy for the intervention of Professor Profumo, because there are some lines that are really important that we should think about. Broadening the basis, having much more, I would say, also specialized curricula, broad specialized curricula. It seems like a contradiction, but it isn't, for actually operating and constructing biorefineries, because biorefineries are the next step in technologies, integrating a lot of technologies. So this is from, I would say, what we have seen from what we need and what we need to change. Now, to Mr. Larsen, yes, you are absolutely right. Millions of jobs. And we are facing the situation that we cannot educate them. And that is a really severe thing. If you just see the time frames, if you want to have a new educational system in place, it takes 2 or 3 years if you are very quick, and then another 2 or 3 years to educate. And up, we are in 2020. That's Horizon 2020. Then we are there, then we have the first educated people. And also to Professor Schur again, I headed the bioenergies section in the set plan for education roadmap. And we did a lot of that, what you already want to do. I mean, we really looked out and looked into what is out there in terms of curricula, what is needed. And we came up with needs of about 20 to 30,000 engineers for biorefineries until 2030. So that's a big number. And that means that we have to start yesterday if we really want to be there when we really need them. And we have also analyzed what we have in other engineering factions that we need there, and it's tens of thousands additional engineers. And we're not even covering what we need now as engineers. So there must be a real effort in terms of changing the educational systems, changing universities. I'm coming from a university, I know how fast that is, how quick universities react, and they're not the quickest. So we really have to do a lot of things. And in this respect, we have to do a lot of things in making, I would say, the educational systems much more permeable. Not sitting on our degrees, but also having other models of education. And bioeconomy, I think, is one key to open up the educational system. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you, Mads Wolf from the Nordic Council of Ministers. Thank you for a very inspiring session here. I think this is a very good evidence, another good evidence of how the discussion in Europe on bioeconomy has developed since we last met in Dublin. I think this is very good, very inspiring. You're addressing a topic here that we normally address in other areas, but the bioeconomy helps us keeping focus on that we need to organize the society in a different way. Normally we discuss about the bureaucracy and business and so on, but the education of course is a very crucial subject to this discussion as well. So I think it's very good to have this discussion. My question is simply, what is actually keeping you back? Profumo, you talk like, I think you might not just have this idea, I suspect you're actually working on it already. It sounded like not just like an idea, but maybe more of a plan. But then, if you can confirm that, I would be very happy. But then otherwise, maybe a question to other education institutions, what's keeping you back? Why don't you just make these PhD schools or master programs and so on? It seems so obvious. So what are the obstacles?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you're right. I'm working since sometimes on these ideas that not only for the bioeconomy, but for what we can call the future. Our schools are not fast enough. Our colleague is right. You know, you cannot talk with the bureaucracy on the back. What you need is to be fast. You need to be flexible because you don't have yet the right paths. And you have to be in the frontier because nothing is stabilized. Then I have the feeling that I'm working on this, is that we need to start in some areas. And this area maybe is the right one, because I said that there are 3 companies that they are in less than 100 kilometers far from one to the other one. And there is a good demand in terms of new jobs in this area. There is a good background. And maybe if they're able just to put together and to get good students, this is the basic, good students from all around the world. And they can set up some kind of agreement with some schools. This is the way to do. I'm facing this possibility to have what I can call not formal education. At the end, you need to have a kind of degree because people, they need it when you need to move from one part or the other. But in this time, for these biorefineries jobs, you need in some way to look for the future, and the future is not yet here. Then you need to go in some way. You know, is my experience that when you needed to do something new, you needed to avoid to really be too much, to have too much constraints from the bureaucracy, from the closed rooms, some way. It's not easy, but I think we can do that. If you are interested, we can talk about this.
I think that the 2 last interventions sort of leads towards that this is a question about management and leadership at universities in order to get going. What would you say, Ulrich, about that?
I think both go in the same direction, and actually we don't hold back. There are things which are out there. Just as one example from our own experience, we, as I said, I'm heading this Bioeconomy Science Center, which has 3 universities with these diverse occupations in there. And specifically out of that reason that we have to act quickly, we decided to not go in that direction to really have the matrix shifted from disciplines to the bioeconomy, but rather build on disciplines and have engineers who have a disciplinary approach with their education and link them to plant scientists and agricultural scientists, and we're doing this day by day today on the PhD level. We do this already. We have education programs on the PhD level, which are in projects. And specifically, we have set up these projects in a way that we are giving money to these projects within that consortium only if they are linking between different disciplines. So that's exactly addressing this question, and we have very good experience with doing that. I know there are alternative ways so that people are changing what I would say the matrix from different disciplines into biorefineries or whatever. This is an alternative approach. I think it probably takes longer time, and in many cases people are just relabeling things. And looking into the Bologna process as a whole, I would also say there's a lot of relabeling in there, but that's probably a different story. But I think we should try both ways, and we're doing this, and there are ways out there, and there are specific master courses and graduate schools in there. Just to give you one more sentence on why we choose to have this linking disciplines thing, we had a mapping in our region, and within our region, within our 3 universities, we had actually 15 graduate schools which are linked to bioeconomy. Some of them in engineering, some of them in agriculture, some of them in biotechnology. And we just decided that it's not useful to just add one additional graduate school on bioeconomy. Why not build on what they have and try to link them? That's just a different approach. And I think what we see so far is very positive on that.
Can I? Giovanni Sanya?
Yeah. Note of the discussion as the rapporteur of the Commission. I'm Giovanni Sagna from the University of Naples. I'm also the head of PhD school in industrial biotechnology. And I'd like to add some positive issues. Some work has already started, and we had some experience, but I don't think we are the only ones. And we have now instruments to work now. Just translating my words into facts. 10, 11, 15 years ago, we started to think that engineers and people with a degree in science, they couldn't talk each other because they spoke different languages. So we invented the PhD school in biotechnology, in industrial biotechnology, with people with degrees in different disciplines could meet and but we were not satisfied with that. And we thought that also we should add economy teaching. And we asked our people working in the Faculty of Economy, we had faculties at the time, to contribute in this PhD school. And it's now almost 14 years, 13 years, we have the PhD students. They already got the title. Some of them have been hired by Novamont. So this was my satisfaction that we were able to create a good school. There is still a lot of work to do, and we have to change every year and to adapt ourselves to the new needs from the academia, from the industry, from the world, let's say. What can we do now? This is an example, it's in a region which is a little bit far from Piemonte. It's in the south of Italy or in the north of Africa, as you can see from both sides. We think that that is a strategic position because the Mediterranean is a crucial area in Europe. What we can do now? We have the instruments in Horizon 2020. We are setting up with colleagues from France, UK, Spain, Germany. Colleagues, academia and industries from that, in applying for an industrial PhD. Okay, this will be just 10 people, but it's a model. It's already not patented, but it's my idea, the name for this PhD is Industrial Biotechnology in the Bioeconomy era. That's what we are discussing here now. And we are ready to submit. The deadline is 13th of January. So we have the possibility of creating different frames in which we can experience different ways of approaching this solution. We don't have a solution, there is no solution, but there are different strategies to go through formation of people for these new jobs?
Lene Lange, Aalborg University. I have a similar positive note. 6 years ago, I think 5-6 years ago, there was a small project and a report, and that was giving an overview of what is the skills needs for bioeconomy. Started 6 years ago. I had the pleasure of heading it. So I know, and much of the same things were already said and started and distributed. The other positive thing about the industrial PhD, we have had wonderful experience with that for 30 years in Denmark. It works. We have a fantastic model. It really works. Now it's also an EU model. We have the instrument. And why hold, Peter, what is holding universities back? You know, I among many others, have started a new line of education, a bachelor and a master in sustainable biotechnology, which is in English. And it is coming people from all over Europe and from outside Europe as well. It is working, and I think we are moving. The problem and the scary part is the volume. It's not that nothing happens, but if we really get to unfold the bioeconomy with the speed we here are sharing is possible, then we have a problem at scale. And there, I think Jesper's part from the union is the most important, because there will be really many people who will be handling biological processes, biological problems, and biological organisms and so on, which are very different from synthetics and fossils and so on. So there is a huge need. And there we can never ever cope with training everyone. We need train the trainers. I mean, they did that in China, we can do that. I mean, it's possible. So train the trainers is one part. But I also think that we need, in Europe, Peter, in the EIT and the KICS, because much of the education program which are being built on EU level is connected to KICS, but they are not necessarily cut in lines which are congruent with the types of education you need. Because if you need a biorefinery, bioeconomy education, you not necessarily have to confine yourself to the food aspect. I mean, what we did in sustainable biotech is that the core technology is biological production. That's relevant for industry, for agriculture, for farmer, for everything, for food, the whole thing. And that's what you need, because the youngsters need flexibility for the working market later on. They will not just for one narrow one. We don't know where the explosion of the need and which part of the bioeconomy will be the one exploding in Europe. So we have to make sure that we do this right, and I think we should do more in recognizing bioeconomy relevant master and PhD programs, different parts of EU, more than just kids. Do and broaden that, because then we can build and then put on such people's also responsibility to be the one training in civil society and blue collar jobs. Thank you.
Well, a lot of interesting things has been said already. My name is Kari Kost. I'm from Norway, Agricultural Authorities. My experience from following my own kids and a lot of other kids through education is that it's kind of a mindset that is needed. Bioeconomy is also a mindset, it's not only a science. And this way of thinking, I've seen it practiced in school, this problem-based learning. They're given a problem, they have to find a solution together in groups, using each other's competence. I think we need to start there in early ages, so they learn to think out of the box, learn to use themselves and all their friends and colleagues in the next stage. Because you can't know everything, even though we should have a broader basis, as has been mentioned. I think that's important. Still, we can't be experts in all fields. So we need to learn to talk together and think loudly and discuss and go out of the box. And that needs to be learned in early ages also. So this problem-based learning, when they sit together and find solutions on different kind of problems, I think that's easy to do. We can do it now.
Jim Philp from OECD. I'm a microbiologist, but I spent a lot of my time in the oil business, and it strikes me that the chemical engineer does something very magical. He gets crude oil and chemical thermodynamics and turns it into money. And it strikes me now that this is a point, we're almost at a point where the synthetic biologist can start to take that role. The trouble with talking at PhD level is, for example, there was a report from the National Academy of Sciences in 1995 said the same kind of arguments we're having here about the United States labour force. The PhD was too focused, didn't enjoy his experience in industry, didn't understand industrial research compared to academic research, and just didn't fit the model. So, another conversations I have with American synthetic biology companies, they say we have no shortage of biologists, plenty of them. They don't have mathematics though. They have a bigger shortage of people, guys who can design experiments in the face of massive amounts of data, and automation engineers. Now, I think we have a lot of conversation here about masters and PhD level. I think it might be a dirty word in Europe now, but apprenticeship. And I think we need people much more at grassroots. You have 22 million people in the bioeconomy already. You don't build large companies full of PhDs. You build them full of a workforce. And at a more practical point, what does it take to train a PhD, money-wise? How much does it take to train an apprentice? I think we need to get back to more grassroots as well as the larger discussion on industrial masters and PhD.
Right. This is exactly what I meant with lifelong learning. Yeah? So why build the expertise from scratch? It's there. So take people in from industry, take people in from other academic background, and give them an additional training in what is linked to bioeconomy. Yes, of course.
I'm Josef Klössl from Book University in Vienna. I'm Vice Rector for Research. And I would like to mention a few examples of our educational concepts. We have implemented in all our curricula is the so-called three-pillar system, interlinking natural sciences, technical science, and socio-economics. And we have minimum requirements for all of our curricula. The other point I would like to mention that we are heavily using university networks. For example, this year we started a master's studies together with 9 universities from 8 member states in the Danube region on the topic of sustainable production of feed, food and renewable resources, which also links the competences in biology and in engineering, also in economics somehow. And I would also like to mention an example of a doctoral school together with industry. So last year we have established a doctoral school together with wood industry on wood technology. So the companies are paying half of the cost of this program, and there is a close interaction between the university and these companies, and also together with the Federal Ministry of Science.
Thank you. I also believe that we have an issue around the mapping and the understanding of what is going on at national, regional, at EU level. And I wonder whether there are some good examples of steps towards certification of national initiatives, both at the technical level and at the university level, at high level. Are there movements in that direction? And I wonder whether we could use some of the larger Horizon 2020 projects, because they are growing larger and larger, and not least the Bio-Based Industries Consortium, the BBI, which is running with their budget of 3.7 billion. That's more than we have in EIT for raising new kicks. Couldn't that be a strong platform for volume and speeding up of also the education dimension? The answer is silence. Also in all these discussions on going from where we have now with some positive developments and going much more rapidly towards the future, I also would like to sort of ask you, Jesper, with also your trade union and your workers' perspective, do you think that the industry and the education systems are really prepared for the future?
Yes and no. No, because I can see in Denmark a lot of companies in the industry, they want people who is skilled workers. They don't want to have the trainees because it costs them a lot of money, and it isn't true, because at the end they need those workers that are skilled, know exactly about the jobs that there is on that factory and so on. So I think we have a big problem with companies all over Europe, because if we want to lead on bioeconomy, we must also train the blue collars, and not only in masters and PhD and so on. And I think that's also the problem with people here. You come from that system, and therefore you most of the time think about how can we make a new PhD or master and so on. But you had to start by the ground, because it is there the most of the workers are, and where you can create a lot of jobs, and there you can build up. Because I think it's a good, if you have the background and then you slowly build up more and more knowledge. But yes, also because we know some companies in Denmark are doing it, and they are also trained people after they had come to their factory and said, oh, if you do something more, we will also raise your salary with €1 or whatever it could be a week or something. But they also give them something at the end for educate them, so they know, or train them so they know also about what's going on in their own jobs and factories. Thank you.
The intervention from Norway on mindset, I think, is quite important, because being in such a complex situation as the bioeconomy is, with many different players and with many obstacles, I think it's the right way of thinking. We need to create a mindset, a culture around, we want biotechnology, bioeconomy, and we should start early on from that. You mentioned the concept of problem-based learning. I would prefer to have it as opportunity-based learning, because that's what I see in the bioeconomy area rather than problems. Of course, there are problems, but I think we should also give it a kind of positive notion. There are so many opportunities here, so let's develop opportunity-based learnings. And the last comment would be also that we talked about the attractiveness of new education schemes like you discussed, Francesco. I was wondering whether we also need some kind of incentivization for those that really do the job, do the hard job, and create new innovation, let's say, education programs. What we did in EIT was to have this EIT label, qualification of the best programs. And you know what? It works. We now have, for the last few years, we had 20,000 students applying for seats that were only 1/9 of that. So making it attractive, making it visible by incentivization simply works.
Maybe I can say something related to the EIT label. The EIT, since the beginning, idea was to get one European label that is something more than just only the EIT label. And this is maybe the way to go. You know, the EIT we are going to have now, we have now the second call. We have 3 major programs that are going on. Then in a few months we are going to have the next 3. Then the idea when we started 3-4 years ago was just in the beginning. I was one of the university participating in that, and we did not understand really since the beginning what was the future. But now that we fail sometimes, we got some good results. We are able to understand that maybe for the real frontier, the EIT scheme is the best scheme, because it really, you have to go over the traditional degree. You can get together people from university and from companies. You can get students from all around the Europe. You get a call with 1,000 of applicants on that. Then I have the feeling that this could be a good idea. Maybe we can set up like we can call conference by the EIT, looking for what we could get till now, and starting from that, do some filtering, and just to get something that could be spread out in Europe, and could be the way where to start for future investment.
That is very appropriate, and that's in fact also in the planning book going forward, now that we are entering the growth phase, with maturing the existing kicks and the new coming, to sort of take stock of what works and what does not work. And I think in terms of bioeconomy, I think it's a big shame that we don't already have a kick addressing bioeconomy. We should have had that. Now, in 2016, we'll probably get 2 new ones, one on food for the future and one on advanced manufacturing. I think that will be important of many aspects of the bioeconomy, but we should have had one directly on that. So I think with these few closing comments, I think I would like to close the session of today. Thank you very much for our speakers and for the lively discussion.